Welcome to Wallace on Wire. Today we're talking about Anthony Loke's statement regarding Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim being caught in the political trap set by the party Islam Malaysia, PAS. So we're jumping right into some pretty intense political commentary today, really focusing on what Anthony Loke has been saying. The core idea that he's putting forward is that Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim genuinely had zero intention, absolutely none, of messing with Chinese vernacular schools. Wasn't trying to stir the pot at all. But Loke's take is that the PM kind of stumbled into a political trap, one carefully laid out by the opposition party Islam Malaysia.
Right. And Loke frames this not as, a character flaw or anything like that, but more as a tactical misstep in communication, especially in such a, politically charged environment.
So what was the specific misstep, according to Loke?
It boils down to the Prime Minister's response during that parliamentary session, the Dewan Rakyat question time. Loke's argument is that the answer given was just too general, a bit too broad. And that lack of precision, that slight ambiguity, well, that was the opening key needed. Luke believes they just seized on it immediately.
Okay, but I have to ask, is that a bit too convenient? If PAS's strategy is so well known, why would the PM still fall into it? Doesn't that ambiguity itself suggest maybe a communication issue the government needs to address, regardless of PAS's intentions?
That's a fair point, a really crucial question. And Loke sort of preempts that by saying you have to understand the opponent first. He insists this whole tactic, using sensitive cultural and religious issues, it's not new for PAS, not at all. It's been their go-to strategy for years, actually. A calculated long-term thing.
Weaponizing culture and religion, basically.
Exactly. They're adept at finding these fault lines, these sensitive spots, and exploiting them for political gain. Sometimes it feels like it completely sidelines the really important discussions we should be having about, say, the economy or reforms.
And Luke seems to think this has gotten worse recently. Why now?
Yeah, he observes it's escalated. And the reason he points to is pretty straightforward. There are increased numbers in Parliament.
More MPs means more clout.
Precisely. It gives them, two key advantages. Firstly, just more chances to ask these kinds of leading, maybe provocative questions during question time. And secondly, when they do manage to score a point or create a fuss, they have greater visibility, more media attention.
So they're actively looking for these chances now.
That's what Loke suggests. They're constantly scanning, looking for any opportunity in Parliament, any slightly vague answer to basically borrow the topic and expand on it, as the saying goes. They use the parliamentary platform to blow up maybe a minor issue into a big national controversy, designed, Loke implies, to put the government on the back foot.
Right, and to really grasp this pattern Loke is describing, he gave some specific examples, didn't he? It's not just about the schools.
Oh, absolutely not. He provided a whole range of examples to show just how wide this strategy goes.
What's the common thread then?
The thread seems to be where modern life or established multicultural practices kind of rub up against a stricter interpretation of religious morality. It forces the unity government into a tough spot, defend the status quo, the multicultural norms, or appear to concede to moral policing.
Okay, so what were those specific examples Loke brought up?
Well, he pointed straight to that big row over serving alcohol at events, specifically events held on school grounds, like community functions using school halls.
Yes, I remember that one.
Then there was that push, quite loud, to get Malaysia Airlines to stop serving alcohol altogether.
Yeah.
On all flights.
Even international ones, despite it being a commercial airline.
Exactly. That's the point Loke makes.
Yeah.
And it didn't stop there.
What else was on his list?
He mentioned the ongoing debates around gambling and betting operations, the licensing issues. Also, things like permits for public concerts. That's often a target.
Right.
And even discussions, believe it or not, about whether female flight attendants should have to wear headscarves.
Wow, okay, so it's a really broad range of cultural touch points.
It really is. And Loke's point is that this list demonstrates a coherent strategy. Find any practice that can be framed as conflicting with religious rules, amplify it in Parliament, and use it to distract and potentially divide the government coalition.
So, given that Loke seems to have diagnosed the strategy pretty clearly, what's his advice? What's the warning he's issuing to the government, to the ministers?
His conclusion is basically a call for extreme vigilance, hypervigilance almost. He believes ministers need to be incredibly meticulous, not just, careful, but really precise when they prepare for Dewan Rakyat question time.
One wrong word can blow up.
That's the essence of his warning. A single slip-up, a reply that's too general or maybe a bit careless, can be instantly weaponized. It turns a routine answer into a national headline overnight. And that, he argues, just derails the government's actual agenda, focusing on the economy, reforms, things like that.
It sounds exhausting, frankly, but Loke isn't just pointing fingers, is he? He also talked about how the government, or at least his party, the Democratic Action Party, is handling this. He offered some reassurance.
Yes, he did. He wanted to assure people that they are handling these sensitive issues very cautiously.
Mm-hmm.
He specifically mentioned that if a minister does give an incorrect response, or one that plays into the opposition's hands accidentally,
Yeah.
they will make sure it gets corrected immediately. So it shows they recognize the need for constant damage control readiness. The communication team has to be on standby, basically.
Okay, let's switch gears slightly to Loke's defense on the original issue that kicked this off, the school banquets. He gave some context there, didn't he? Tried to make it relatable.
He did, very strongly. He argued that these kinds of feasts, these celebrations, often held in school halls because, let's face it, they're big community spaces and often affordable.
Mm-hmm.
They've been happening for decades.
Yeah.
It's standard practice in the Chinese community. He's framing it as a long-standing cultural tradition, not some kind of moral failing.
And he challenged the idea that just because alcohol might be present near a school, it automatically harms kids.
Exactly. He directly tackled that implication.
Yeah.
His point was, does simply having an event in a school hall mean serving drinks suddenly has this hugely negative impact on student development?
Mm-hmm.
He really questions that direct link, arguing the location itself doesn't dictate the moral outcome or override a family's role in teaching responsibility.
And to back this up, he used a personal story, right? Which was quite revealing.
Very memorable, yes.
Yeah.
A very effective personal anecdote. He talked about his own childhood.
What did he say?
He shared that he grew up helping out in his family's restaurant. And part of that involved, actually pouring drinks for customers when he was young.
Which is, let's be honest, probably a familiar reality for lots of Malaysians whose families run small businesses, right?
Absolutely. And that personal experience becomes his core defense.
Yeah.
He argues, look, that exposure, growing up in that environment, it didn't turn him into someone irresponsible or, as he put it, someone who loves drinking.
It's a powerful counter-narrative.
It is. It shifts the focus away from these sort of rigid, maybe politically motivated bans and brings it back to, well, common sense, personal responsibility, and lived experience.
So he's basically saying these things are subjective.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
He emphasizes that these cultural moral questions are often, jianji, as the saying goes. It varies from person to person. Different people see it differently. And ultimately, he connects it back to family upbringing, personal values, not just the physical location of an event. It's quite a strong plea for cultural understanding over political point scoring.
So if we pull all of Loke's points together, what's the big picture takeaway here?
Well, the synthesis of his argument is really a stark warning about Malaysian politics today. Cultural and religious issues are incredibly sensitive, volatile even, and they are, according to Loke, constantly being used as political tools, as weapons. His message to the government seems to be, your communication needs to be sharper, more precise, almost like surgical strikes, to diffuse opponents who specialize in twisting nuanced language. The trap, as he sees it, is very real, and the only way to avoid it is through clarity and constant vigilance.
Which leaves us with a question for you, our listeners.
Yeah.
Thinking about all this, does Parti Islam Malaysia actually have legitimate concerns about these cultural issues they keep raising? Or, as Loke suggests, are they primarily setting calculated political traps for the government and parliament? What part of Anthony Loke's analysis, his take on their long-term strategy, the list of issues they target, or even his personal defense resonates most strongly with you as you watch all this unfold? Remember to like and subscribe for more videos like this.